Well, welcome in. Welcome to another Michael's class. Tonight, Emma is going to be teaching us this awesome little lovely lily pads painting. This is a great little painting if you are into lakes and rivers, or if you have like a koi pond outside of your house. Emma took a long time taking in some inspiration for this one, and I think she'll teach a really good class tonight. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to her. Let us know. I am going to be watching the chat here. So if you have any questions that you want me to relay to Emma, or if it's something I can answer easily in the chat, I'll do that. But she's going to do her best to keep it at a good pace and just pay attention to the colors she's using, and we should be in good shape. So I'll let Emma take it away.
Alrighty, so thanks, Dylan. Welcome again, everybody. We're always so excited to have you paint with us on our Monday night paint classes with Michaels. Like Dylan said, tonight we're going to be painting lovely lily pads. I am very excited to paint along with you all tonight. Without further ado, let's go ahead and run through our supply list, make sure that everybody has everything that they'll need to paint along with us tonight, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So like always, we are going to be using our promo FAI kit, which comes with an assorted colors of FolkArt matte acrylic paint. That's what we love to paint with. So the specific colors that we're going to be using tonight from that kit are Wicker white, lime green, classic green, bright pink, licorice, and true blue. And then we have a special guest joining us tonight. We're going to be using one of my favorite specialty paints that we make here at Plaid, our FolkArt Treasure Gold. And one of the best things about Treasure Gold is that it has an insane amount of metallic properties, but it is totally water-based and non-toxic. So the reason that I love working with our Treasure Gold so much is because you get all of that sheen and that shine that you want from a really good metallic paint, but you don't have to worry about working in a well-ventilated area. Kids are safe to use this. It's totally water-based and non-toxic, and I'll show you guys just how shiny it is. It is really impressive. So we're going to be working with our Treasure Gold Aquamarine, Rose Gold, and Green Gold. But really, if you just want to pick out your very favorite color of Treasure Gold when you head to Michaels or Michaels.com, then you can just use one color of Treasure Gold for all of our touches of gold in our painting tonight. So that would be a great choice too. So let's go ahead and get started, you guys. So I'll show this really quick. This is going to be what we're all painting tonight. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we are going to go ahead and apply some of our true blue onto our palette. Okay. And we are also, I should say this too, we are using our variety pack of brushes tonight. So an assortment of flat brushes is going to work well for this class tonight. We also are going to be using a piece of chalk or a pencil. I prefer to use chalk, but you can use whatever you want. And then a rectangle sized canvas, whatever rectangle sized canvas, stretched canvas you want to get. Okay, so first off, I'm going to go ahead and take my 3/4 inch flat brush, and I'm going to go ahead and start base coating the left side of my canvas with our true blue. And we're going to stop about 1/3 of the way into our painting. We're going to stop our true blue. Okay, just like that. So without rinsing our brush, now that about 1/3 or so of your painting is base coated with that true blue, what we're going to do next is I'm going to introduce some classic green to our palette right next to our true blue. So the amount of true blue that you have right now on your palette, I'm going to be looking for about 1/3 classic green compared to our true blue. So we're going to have 2 parts true blue to about 1 part classic green. We're going to be looking for a very teal color. Okay, and then we're just going to add just a touch of our licorice right by it. So we're going to start by mixing our blue and our green together. And then we are going to add just the tiniest amount of black into this mixture. So we went ahead and we applied quite a bit of black to our palette, but I'm just going to dip just like the corner of my brush into that black, not very much at all, because the black is really going to muddy this color combination. So we're really only trying to darken the hue that we just created. We're not trying to make it a muddy black color. So just a tiny, tiny bit of black into our classic green and true blue mixture till we end up with this really beautiful dark teal color. Okay, so once that is nice and mixed up, we are going to go ahead and base coat the remaining part of our canvas in that color that we just mixed. And we're not worried about blending these 2 colors together, because our next step, when we start to incorporate some of our beautiful treasure gold, that is going to kind of have a faux blending effect. Okay, so once that is base coated, we can go ahead and rinse our brush. And if you've ever been to one of our Monday night paint classes before, you know that I generally like to have a blow dryer in the studio so that we can don't have to wait for our piece to dry before we move on to the next step if it requires our canvas to be dry. So I'm going to go ahead and blow dry my canvas really quick. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Treasure Gold Aquamarine and add a touch of it to our palette. And another great thing about our Treasure Gold is that a little bit goes a long way, so we don't have to add a lot. Just a tiny little dollop. Okay. Now I'm going to take my number 12 flat, just about a, 1/2 inch flat brush. I'm going to dip it into my treasure gold and holding my brush perpendicular to my canvas, I'm going to make a sweeping motion like this. And I'm going to try to make it as straight as I can get it. So I don't want it to have any type of curves or diagonal lines. I want it to go right from left to right. And as we're doing that, we're making these little brush strokes just like this. And as I come down, I want to have some different lengths as I come down. So maybe it kind of elongates and then it kind of compresses again as it comes down, just so we get that interest in our painting so that it's not all one length. And if it's helpful to you, just so you can kind of get a picture in your head of where you want it to be longer and where you want it to be shorter, you can make lines like this, just kind of as a guide as you come down. So maybe I want it here to be that long. When I come down here, I want it to be a little bit longer like that, and so on. So that way you have that guide so you can kind of think about it in advance, make it easier on yourself. Going left to right, trying to maintain that straight line. And if it's not a totally straight line, that's all right. Go easy on yourself. But the straighter it is, the more realistic it's going to look. I love the addition of the treasure gold to our painting tonight because we're kind of mimicking the reflection of the water. And the treasure gold really helps to mimic a water's reflection. See how shiny that is? And that's just one coat. Okay, so now at this point, maybe you want some of your lines to be a little bit longer. That's the beauty of painting, is that, you can always add or paint over something if you don't like it. So now that we've done that step, we can kind of go back and see if we want to touch it up anywhere. So maybe I'll make these lines a tiny bit longer before we move on to our next step. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush again. And really quickly, I'm just going to go ahead and blow dry my canvas again to lock my painting in place. How are we doing in the chat, Dylan? Is everybody doing okay with the pace that we're working with tonight?
Yeah, I think everybody's painting along with you. I see a lot of faces down and some contemplating there. Everybody's just working away.
Awesome. Okay, you guys. So let's go ahead and move on to our next step. So this is where we're going to use our chalk or our pencil, whatever you want to use to sketch with. And what we're going to do is I'm going to start by, I'll show you guys our finished painting again. So I'm going to focus on where I want my lily pads to live in the composition of my painting. So first, we're going to sketch the darkest green lilies, the lily pads, okay? So we're going to make some big circle shapes. These are probably going to be the biggest circle shapes on our canvas. So we're thinking about spacing. We're thinking about taking up the areas of our canvas that we want to. So I'm going to go ahead and draw kind of a wide circle right there. A big one there. I'm going to draw another big one right here. We're going to have some lily pads going off our canvas so that the pattern continues off the canvas. One more here. Then another one coming off there. So that's what mine looks like, but I encourage yours to look a little bit different if you want it to, wherever you want your biggest lily pads to live. And we're thinking about taking up space, but also saving some room for those smaller lily pads, but keeping in mind that they are going to overlap quite a bit. So once you're done with that, we are going to sketch out the little divots in our lily pads where our lily pads are separated into those triangles. So to do that, we're just going to put a little dot in the center of each of our lily pads. Imagine where we would think that center would be, maybe there, and then maybe here. Okay, so keeping in mind the dot that we placed in the center, that is going to be where our little triangle stems from. So we have one line going out there from the center and then another line going out here. And we're going to keep doing that with all of the centers of our lily pads, making those little triangles. And something that I was trying to keep in mind when I was creating the painting is that I do like when the triangles are going in different directions. So maybe this one is going towards the upper right. So maybe this one will go towards the upper left. And you can kind of switch up the width of your triangle as well to add some interest to your painting. So maybe this is coming down like that. Maybe this guy's like this, but he's a little bit skinnier. And maybe this one won't even have a triangle. So something kind of like that. Give you guys a second to catch up. And as we do that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce some more classic green onto my palette. Okay, so I'm going to take another small flat brush. I'm going to use my number 8 flat brush. It's a little bit smaller than 1/2 inch, but whatever you feel comfortable filling in those lily pads with. I'm going to use a small flat brush. And all we're going to do is pick up some of that classic green. I like to initially follow that V shape that we made so that I can initially focus on some of those more sharp lines. And then I'm going to go ahead and follow the chalk marks that we sketched out and initially make our lily pad shape before I worry about filling it in. Okay, and I'm going to keep doing that for all of these lily pads. I'm going to rotate my canvas, make it a little bit easier. Work smarter, not harder. Okay, just touching up some of those spots now where we want it to be a little bit more opaque, or we see a little bit of that blue coming through from underneath. Okay, so once we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and set my brush down. I'm not going to rinse it right away. Actually, yes, I am getting ahead of myself. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush, and now I'm going to go ahead and blow dry these lily pads. Okay, so once your lily pads are nice and dry, I'm going to go ahead and just take my paper towel. You can use your fingertip if you want to, and I'm just going to dust off some of that chalk so that we get the nice, clean, green lily pads. And that's the great thing about using chalk instead of a pencil or something like that, is because we don't have to worry about erasing the pencil lines, and maybe we get some weird eraser lines, or we painted a little bit over our pencil lines, so now we have to worry about covering it up. The chalk just comes right off. So we're left with that. Okay, so now you guys are pros at this. We're going to focus on some of the medium-sized lily pads on our canvas. So maybe I'm going to do one here, another guy here. You can overlap your lily pads if you want. I did in my finished painting, but you don't have to. You can do here. Okay, so again, we're going to mark the centers and then make those V shapes again. Just like that. Okay, so once you've sketched that out, now we're going to introduce some lime green onto our palette. And again, same thing we did with our classic green. We're going to fill in those sketches with our lime green. Okay, so you guys know the drill by now. I'm gonna go ahead and rinse my brush, and then I'm gonna go ahead and blow dry our lime green lilies to lock them in place. Okay, and now I'm gonna go ahead and wipe off our chalk again. Okay, one last round of lily pads. We're going to take out our chalk again, and then really keeping in mind where we want the rest of our lilies to fall on our canvas. So I think I'm going to do one here, one here, and one here. Okay, marking our centers. And then making those V's again. Okay, so now we're going to add to our palette some of our wicker white. Going to take another small flat brush. I'm going to use my number 8 flat, and I'm going to take a little dollop of our classic green. So we're looking for about 4 parts white to 1 part wicker white, or I'm sorry, to 1 part classic green. And we're going to mix that up until we're left with a really nice, beautiful minty green color. And finally, I'm going to fill in the last of those lily pads. Okay, so now for the last time, I'm going to go ahead and blow dry those lily pads. And then I'm going to remove some of that chalk. Okay, how are we doing in the chat, Dylan?
Good. So I think we actually accidentally had it disabled for a little bit, but we just had a question. If I use the wrong color for the water and it's a little too dark, can I correct it or do I need to start over?
Yes, absolutely. So you can always add a little bit of white to lighten it up, obviously. But if you feel like you added a little bit too much of the black, you can also reincorporate some of those original colors that you mixed in. So you can add more of that true blue or that classic green to lighten it up a little bit from the black. And sometimes what I like to do is I will add some more of the other colors. So I would add more true blue and classic green separately on my palette. And then I would take a scoop of the paint that I already mixed that's too dark for my taste and mix it into those new paints that I just added in there, if that makes sense, so that you're not having to waste quite as much paint. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. And then we had another request if you would put the or show everybody your example painting just to kind of give people
Or,
a look at where we're headed.
yes. All right. Should we keep going?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So now comes another fun part. We are going to introduce some more of our lovely treasure gold onto our painting. So I'm going to go ahead and add to my palette some treasure gold, green gold. I don't know about you guys, but I love the way our palette looks tonight with all of these beautiful green tones. Okay, so it's up to you guys for this next step. If you feel more comfortable sketching out these lines on your lily pads, these lines that we're about to draw with our treasure gold going out, kind of, really making those segments in our lily pads, you can go ahead and sketch that out now. The only thing that I would say for if you wanted to do that is to just keep in mind the center of your lily pad. That's where we marked our little dot in the beginning. But I'm just going to go ahead and freehand it. So I'm going to take a small flat brush, my number 6 flat. I am going to dip it into my treasure gold, green gold. And starting at the center of my lily pad where we initially made that little mark, I'm going to hold my brush perpendicularly and paint some lines starting from the center and brushing out, holding my brush perpendicularly so that it stands like this. And I'm going to keep doing that, starting from the center and brushing out, going all the way around my lily pad for all of my lily pads on my canvas tonight. And I really love this part because it's kind of fun to see how the contrast of the treasure gold and our lily pads with all of the different lily pad colors that we have on our canvas. And like always, if you feel more comfortable doing line work like this with a liner brush or a small round brush, then of course feel free to use that instead. I prefer working with a smaller flat brush, but whatever you feel comfortable with, I encourage you to use. And just trying to make some straight lines. And maybe some of your lily pads will have more segments than others. Some will have fewer segments. That's the fun of it. It's totally up to you. And whatever pond that you want to create tonight. I'll flip my canvas around, make it a little bit easier on myself. Okay, until we are left with something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush. And now I'm going to add some more of my Wicker white to my palette. Right there. And I'm also going to add to my palette some bright pink. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to look for a 2-to-1 ratio of white to bright pink. So I'm going to scoop up some of my white, add it there, and then I'm going to scoop up less than that, my bright pink. So that we're looking for kind of like a bubblegum color. And mine might be a little bit too white, and that's fine. I'm just going to take another little bit of my bright pink and darken it a little bit. Okay. So once you are satisfied with your pink color, this is going to be those flowers that we have living on our pond. So that's whatever color you want those flowers to be if you're happy with your pink. So what we're going to do is we are going to make a big U shape on our canvas. So I'm gonna, holding my brush perpendicularly with my flat brush that we just used to mix our paint, gonna make one U shape like this. And it's up to you. If you wanna have your flower kind of sitting on one of your lily pads, if you wanna have it freestanding in your water, that's what I'm gonna do, but it's totally up to you. So I'm gonna put one U right there, kind of dictating where I want my flower to be. And then maybe another flower up here in some of this blank space. One more U shape, just like that. Okay, so now that we have our U shape, those are going to be the outermost petals of our flower, like this. So now we want to paint the inward petals of our flower. So I'm going to paint, oh, need more paint. I'm going to paint a higher, two lines like that, higher in the center like that. I'm going to do the same thing again down here. Just like that, kind of like a smiley face. Okay. So now to make these petal shapes, starting on our outermost petals, I'm going to make a swiping motion like that and like that. Now I'm going to do the same thing here and here. Kind of like little horns. Do the same thing here. So swooping inward, swoop, swoop. Okay. So now that we kind of have that basic shape down, I'm going to keep swooping until my color or until my lines kind of intersect like that. So I'm going to swoop down and then swoop till they intersect so that we kind of get that complete shape so that we know what to fill in. Okay. So once all your lines are there, I'm going to go ahead and fill that in.
And Emma, as you're doing that, we had a request to see your example again.
Sure.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. So now that we have that pink color, that light pink color that we mixed, I'm going to go ahead and take a little scoop of that light pink, set it right here, and then I'm going to do a 50-50 ratio of that light pink and our wicker white. I'm going to mix that together so that we get a really pretty light pink color. I'm going to opt for a smaller flat brush, so I'm going to take my number 6 flat. Okay, so now we're going to give our flowers some highlights. So on the right side of all of our petals, we're going to keep going with that swooping motion and just adding little highlights to our petals like this. Okay, so now one last time, maybe another time after this too, I'm going to blow dry my flowers. Okay, and really, you guys are kind of pros at this now. We're going to do a repeat of the shape that we just painted, our flower shape, on the inside of our flower with our wicker white. So again, we are going to make that U shape in the middle of our existing flower. Just adding a touch of water to my white to make it glide really nice and smooth. Okay, and then another one, making those U shapes like that. Okay, and then again, we're going to do our swooping motion. Boop, 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 and then connect them. Or swoop in, take these taller ones and have them swoop in and connect. Now I'm going to fill that shape in with my wicker white. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush, and then go ahead and blow dry that. Okay, one final step and then we are done. I'm going to go ahead and add some rose gold onto my palette. And taking my small number 6 flat brush, we're going to do the same technique that we did with our lighter pink color, making those little highlights on our petals on the right side. And we are going to repeat that process with our treasure gold, rose gold. Okay, and if you've been to any of our Michael's classes before, you know there's one last thing we have to do before our painting is done. Let's go ahead and sign our painting. And we are done, you guys. That is lovely lily pads. So like always, I just want to thank you guys so much for painting along with us tonight. It is always a pleasure to be here and to paint along with you all. If you're new to our Monday night paint classes, then I just want to let you know that we do one of these every single Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure to tune in next time. It's always so much fun painting with you guys. I know I've said that a lot of times, but it really is. I love being here and I really appreciate everybody joining us tonight. So if you painted along and you want to post your creations on social media, then make sure to hashtag plaid crafts. We love to see what you guys are painting at home. What you guys are doing inspires us. So make sure to hashtag plaid crafts and make it with Michaels. Is there anything I'm missing, Dylan?
I don't think so. We enjoyed having you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys again, and we will see you next Monday night. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.